Weebcast!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the some week's Weebcast. I'm your host, Jeffrey Thu, professional shitbag of Mother's Basement. If you somehow are watching this and you or listening to this and you don't know about my main channel, and I am joined today by the anime man himself, Joey.
Hello, I'm Joey.
From youtube.com/theanimeman, and Gigguk of the Anime Zone.
Wow. I have not heard that name in a very, very long time. But yes,
Gigguk.
Yes, I'm Gigguk, formerly of the animes. I've retired that name now, but I'm just Gigguk now. So hey guys.
I mean, I guess the Anime Zone doesn't exist anymore now that you have finally gotten around to changing the name of your Facebook page.
Exactly. I still have to keep the AZ though, so it's Gigguk AZ. So now people just think I'm from Arizona. But yeah, hey, I'm Gigguk from Gigguk, I guess. Yeah, I talk about anime as do we all. And Jeff no longer lives in his mother's basement, so that also is an inaccurate name.
All of our branding is just lies upon lies.
Yeah,
exactly.
Pretty much. I'm not actually Japanese. I don't know if I actually told you, but
Yeah.
But yeah, so today we're going to be talking about Devilman Crybaby, which is the new hit show from Masaki Yuasa, a phrase that I never thought I would be able to say in my life.
I know, right? I know. It's always Masaki Yuasa is just a guy who I've followed for a long time, but I've thought, man, he is never gonna go into the more wider mainstream consensus. And then Devilman Crybaby came along, and I was just like, you know what? I'm fucking happy for him. I'm really fucking happy for him.
I am too. It's like that. I mean, it's like any director, right? Like if you were watching Wes Anderson before he was every white person's favorite director.
Yeah.
And then
oh hell, I got a better example. Someone like Makoto Shinkai. You know?
oh yeah,
Makoto Shinkai, exactly.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Someone like Makoto Shinkai, who I think he's gotten more mainstream than even he wants to be right now.
yeah.
But yeah,
it's like he do an interview where he was like, "Please stop watching my movie."
Yeah, it was something like that. He was like, no, I think what he was like, he was sick of people calling him the new Miyazaki or whatever it was, and he's like, no, don't, please.
To be fair, I think every anime fan is tired of any new anime director being called the new Makoto Shinkai.
Yeah.
No, sorry, the new Hayao Miyazaki.
Even Makoto Shinkai is sick of everyone calling him the new Makoto Shinkai.
Don't you mean the new old Makoto Shinkai?
Yeah, the 5 centimeters per second Makoto Shinkai.
But yeah, it is nice because Yuasa is such an eccentric and weird director. Shinkai, you kind of expected to reach this status eventually because his stuff has that mainstream appeal, but Yuasa makes weird shows. And Crybaby is maybe one of his weirdest. So it's just exciting to have Yuasa skyrocketed into the mainstream like this. If you guys aren't aware, Devilman Crybaby is available on Netflix right now, and lots of people are watching it. PewDiePie made a video about it. That's officially when something becomes mainstream, I think.
Yeah.
Never thought we'd ever be able to say, oh, it's available on Netflix now, and not cringe at the thought of us saying that.
Yeah, I know, right? It's available on Netflix, and PewDiePie just shouted it out. What parallel world are we in right
What's
now?
happening? What's happening to this community?
I know, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Netflix has been doing good stuff for anime in between doing really, really bad stuff for anime. So we can enjoy Violet Evergarden while we're waiting for season 2 of 7 Deadly Sins.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
It's karmic balance, you know?
By the way, Kakiguri, that still has not been released yet.
I'm looking forward to it.
We're living in a world where Violet Evergarden has been released officially before Kakiguri on the same platform. So that just shows how fast that platform has evolved.
Yeah.
And is evolving, I guess.
I mean, Yumiko Jabami would probably really get off on betting on whether or not Kakegurui will be released on Netflix today.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Devilman. I mean, so I had I don't know about you guys, but I was not familiar with Devilman at all, the franchise, before Crybaby came out. So I went into this completely blind. Were you guys aware? Were you guys aware of it before? I'm assuming you are, Joey, because Devilman was like fucking massive in Japan.
Yeah, I read the manga. Geez, like way long ago. Like I think my like uncle showed it to me because he was like born in that era, so he clearly like was that era who like grew up on Devilman, and so he was like, "Hey, check out this manga that's way too young for you right now. You might enjoy it." And and I remember reading it, but like I don't remember it being so like. I guess because like it's obviously even the old manga is like not made for like a younger audience. So I read it, I was like, "Oh, what the hell is this shit?" But then I kind of went back to it after I like heard of Devilman Crybaby. So I'm like, "Oh yeah, Devilman, that was a thing that I remember reading one time." So I actually reread the manga before I decided to jump into the series just to like kind of refresh my mind on what it was about. So I kind of went into it in like a completely different sphere from everybody, like from you, Gant. Like, I obviously knew all the plot twists that was going to happen. I was just more excited to see like, oh, how is a director like Masaki Yuasa going to do it, compared to everybody else? Because like, you guys know that there was like 2 or 3 like different OVAs of that shit, like.
Oh yeah,
back in like the 90s or the 80s or whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, I like how like like the consensus around Devilman has just like it's people are like watching everything Devilman now, because there were like a lot of OVAs that came out ages ago that absolutely no one watched. And apparently people are just finding out how meme worthy they are, because the amount of just random clips I've seen in my timeline since Crybaby came out is just like my timeline is like full of Devilman shit now. And it's not just Crybaby.
Yeah, people are also like sending me a bunch of like tweets being like, "Hey, if you know Devilman, then have you seen Violence Jack?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have. It's fucking horrible." Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Oh man, I love looking back at like 80s anime adaptations of even the best manga, because it was a total crapshoot whether they'd be good or just like the most memeable pieces of B-movie garbage on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. Always have to watch it dubbed, by the way. That's only the A+ quality material.
So my experience with Devilman was basically the same as Garnt's. I didn't know anything about Devilman going into this. My familiarity with Go Nagai like begins and ends with Cutie Honey. Which I've seen like a few episodes of the recent remake or continuation or whatever it was that they did of that at Gainax, I believe was the studio that handled that. And I mean, I knew that his stuff was boundary pushing and had like an emphasis on sexuality and violence and stuff like that, but I was not expecting just how insane and over the top it was on the very first episode. Like that club scene took me by surprise. And then I went to read the manga and I was like, oh, there's tits everywhere in this. Okay.
No, I mean that club scene took me by surprise as well, because it took me by surprise in a good way, because I was just like, that club scene for me was the big indicator that this was going to be something new, something we don't normally see in anime, because it was just on a level of brutality that we just haven't seen in like years, since the good old OVA days of the 90s. And I was excited because after that club scene, it told me that, hey, this is gonna be a new, fresh experience in anime that you haven't seen for ages, and that's what sold me on the series immediately.
I actually, like, because I knew what was going to happen, but I was still, I guess, taken by surprise just like, I knew it was gonna get, like, violent, but I also had that same feeling of, like, oh, you know, recent stuff is obviously, you know, taken a bit of a tone down in terms of gore, especially, you know, compared to, like, stuff from the 80s and 90s, which was, like, on a whole different level of fucked up.
Exactly.
But, yeah, but then, like, I went into it and I'm like, oh, wow, like, USA just gives no fucks right now. Like, he went all out with the gore, and I am not complaining at all.
Yeah, exactly.
This could never have flown on broadcast TV. And we really haven't had this level of just boundary pushing, director gets to make all the choices he wants to make content since the OVA boom of the 90s and the 80s. And I feel like maybe that's coming back with original net animations.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. It took a while. Like, Animator Expo was definitely very boundary pushing in its own way.
Oh yeah.
And like, but God, this is the first anime that I have seen in like years that I would actually categorize as like a psychosexual trip, as opposed to just bringing in some aspects of that and then it's just another anime, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think what makes this exciting in the broader terms of anime is just how Netflix are providing what I feel like is a new platform that wasn't around before. Because I don't feel like even Crunchyroll would have wanted to like put all their money in something that was this out there and this violent.
I was just gonna say, like, I just can't imagine Crunchyroll headlining this, you know, like a show like this.
I mean, like, Crunchyroll have like obviously got some like brutal stuff on their platform, but like they one, obviously nothing is this brutal because nothing like this could air on TV, and I don't feel like this would be like a headliner for them or something that they would push as a headliner, as opposed to Netflix, who feel like they are providing something new to the anime industry, and that's what makes it so exciting for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the flip side of Netflix. Netflix is so huge that they're able to just take chances on crazy stuff like this. I mean, South Park made a meme of like, hello Netflix, you've been greenlit, but I mean, they really are letting like anybody come to the table as long as they've got something cool and interesting and make something out of it. And sometimes you're gonna get Jack Black's The Polka King, or
sometimes you're gonna get Neo Yokio.
Yeah, the greatest anime ever made.
Yeah.
But or Bright. Sometimes you're gonna get Bright. But the fact that they're willing to like take a chance on something like Bright, or I mean, for that matter, the Death Note movie, which I mean,
the greatest piece of cinema.
We remember that.
Yeah, the Death Note movie, not necessarily a great movie overall, but like the director got to do his own thing with it, and that wouldn't have happened from like a major movie studio, and it wouldn't have happened from a smaller company than Netflix that doesn't have the money to take a chance like that. And I mean, between Castlevania, which was amazing, and helping to bankroll Black Mirror's new seasons, Netflix has just been knocking it out of the park and just allowing people to take chances, and that's really cool.
Yeah. And it seems like
I feel like oh, go on.
No,
okay.
You go.
I was gonna say, I feel like right now, like all of us who, like, especially last year, with like all the quote unquote disappointments that Netflix brought out. I feel like right now, like just already the start of this year, like all of us, at least in the anime community, have become like that one dad who used to have a delinquent son and now he's like valedictorian all of a sudden. Like, he's just like, you know what, you fucked up in the past, but I'm proud of you now. Like, you're doing good.
Look at you with your business suit going to your job interview. I'm so proud of how much you've grown, man.
I still remember when you were smoking crack in the backyard.
Sometimes our son Netflix will, go down to the basement, smoke a bit of weed, and not release Kakegurui for 6 months. But for the most part, he's trying really hard, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, he's trying to adapt into society.
I mean,
and
like
it's good.
like Violet Evergarden is another amazing example of just what having a streaming platform on the production committee can do for a show like this. And obviously it's slightly different because that's going on TV as opposed to just being a Netflix original. But like Violet Evergarden's the kind of show that also I don't think could exist at that caliber if it weren't for Netflix allowing for that long production schedule and just, putting their full weight behind it.
Yeah. And I feel like we could be in like we're reverting back to the time of the OVA period where we're getting these, where instead of things being released on DVD, you have net only animation like Devilman, and it's taking us back to a time, because the reason they died is because obviously DVDs died out. And we're going back to a time where you'd go in your fucking local Blockbuster or something, and you'd see this like really obscure DVD in like the back corner, and that's really exciting to me.
Every kid who was born like after 2000 is like, what the fuck is a blockbuster?
What the fuck is a DVD?
Well, what's a DVD?
Yeah, what is a blockbuster? What is rentals?
I remember going into Blockbuster and my parents not letting me rent Ninja Scroll. That's
my dad just had Ninja Scroll and I watched it. I was like, oh, I'm 5. I shouldn't be watching this.
I think my cousin had Ninja Scroll as well, and a bunch of other really obscure, violent anime DVDs. Which I think everyone knew at least one person who had just that obscure anime DVD.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It was most likely Akira though that people had.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But yeah, I guess we haven't even gotten to what we
talking about the show.
Yeah. What we actually thought of Devilman, which I assume you both really liked it, as I did.
I was in love with it. Like at first I was kind of like not 100% on board because it's got that quirky Yuasa style of presentation where it's a little bit surreal and dreamlike, and you're not sure if you're supposed to take everything at face value or not. But like as it escalated, I was just like, I am in love with every part of this. I think the part where I was like 100% on board was when those rappers showed up. I was like, these are my new favorite characters in anything. They're so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was dope. Yeah. No, I loved it too. Like, I obviously, reread the manga and I'm like, yeah, this is dope. But like, I don't know, I've watched everything that Masaki Yuasa's done, so like I was just excited about the fact that, oh cool, Yuasa released another cool thing, and it's just as awesome as everything else he's done. Like, I was excited when he got to direct and write that one Adventure Time episode that everyone was like, what the fuck is this?
That was the first time that he like catapulted into my area of awareness, actually, was I saw that episode. And I had seen Tatami Galaxy before, but I didn't have it like connected in my brain with a specific director. I was like, oh, this is a cool thing that I've seen once. And then I saw that episode. I was like, this reminds me a lot of Tatami Galaxy and other things. And then I was like, oh, that actually is the guy who directed it. That episode was really good too.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. Like, it was like, I don't know, Adventure Time is already a weird show, and Masaki was just like, hold my beer, and just fucking turned it, like, just cranked up the weirdness, but everyone was like, you know what, I could get into this. The marijuana that I'm holding in my hand also agrees.
We can make that joke now, because it's legal, unless it's not. Thanks, Jeff Sessions. It's legal in Canada, though. That's where this podcast is.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that Devilman, I think on Masaki Yuasa's scale, it's actually more toned down. I mean, you had things like the nightclub scene, which were like pure premium Masaki Yuasa. But I think overall it's actually more toned down in compared to some of his other works.
It's I think that might be because just with all of his other shows, Masaki Yuasa has made like Masaki Yuasa shows, but he seems to have like such a deep respect for Go Nagai and the source material that he wanted to like stay faithful to that. So it's like 50% Nagai and 50% Yuasa. I think it's.
I also feel that the fact that like I don't want, it's weird to say this, but like Yuasa's finally gone into the mainstream, that I think like he was just like, I can't make this too weird, otherwise, you know, I might alienate like a bunch of people who perhaps never have seen an anime before. So I feel that he kind of also went with like a more toned down, like more familiar style, because like I can't imagine like a 100% Masaki Yuasa show. Like, I can't imagine, like, a level of Masaki Yuasa that we saw in, like, Kaiba.
Yeah.
To, like, go onto Netflix and everybody being like, oh, this is cool, because it's such a... Like, shows like Kaiba and Ping Pong are, like, just so difficult to get into.
I mean...
If you're not familiar with it.
I think that Kaiba could potentially take off just because it's so... out there with like the Voltron crowd and the people who are watching animation on Netflix already. But I don't know. I feel like Ping Pong could do it too, but Ping Pong's a harder sell. Because, like...
I mean, Ping Pong's... Okay, so like I actually marathon Ping Pong right after I watched Devilman. And I gotta be honest, right? Sometimes it's a bit fucking ugly. There's no other way for me to say this, because like I love Masaki Yuasa's expressive style. Like I love some of like his vision in a lot of his works. But then I was watching Ping Pong, and then there was some points where I was just like, yes, this looks great, and there were other points when I was just like, wow, this just, I don't know, I get what he's trying to do, but it just looks ugly. There's no other way for me to say this, and like I'm sure it was intentional, because I know he's a very, very talented dude. But it's just a much harder sell visually to tell someone, yeah, you know, this is what he's about. Just if you think it's ugly, just ignore that for now, because he can do other stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel as well that like, and I mentioned this in my video on Devilman, shameless plug, but like I feel that like that whole like underdeveloped style of Yuasa was like kind of what made him notorious, I guess, within the people who knew who he was. But like, I don't know how he did it, but he somehow made Devilman, like all the characters in Devilman, look like underdeveloped, you know, like with the animation style and everything to like stylize it and all. Yeah. But at the same time, made all the characters look fucking awesome. And I don't know how the hell he did that. Like, he kind of, like, so perfectly went in between ugly and, like, you know, cocaine for the eyes that everyone was like, wow, this weirdly looks good, but weirdly doesn't, and I don't know how to feel about it.
I think that might come from, like, borrowing elements of Nagai's style. Because Go Nagai is, like, amazing at creating simple-looking characters who just like pose in really interesting ways and look awesome from all angles. I've been going back and reading old Devilman manga now after seeing the show, because like, holy shit. And the artwork there is gorgeous, and I think Yuasa's goal again was like to bring that to life as much as to do his own thing. And create like a living version of what's on the page. And that may have kept him more grounded than he was with, say, Tatami Galaxy, where he's working mostly off of like text and he can do his own thing. Or Kaiba and... I mean, Ping Pong was a manga, but Kaiba and Kemonozume...
I mean, he's done he's done his movies as well, like Mind Game and Tech on Concrete.
And no, Kick Heart. Wasn't Tech on Concrete somebody else? I thought that was like a Western director who did that one. I'm just
let me check. But yeah, Kick Arts. Kick Arts was Yuasa. That was the Kickstarter, wasn't it?
That was like the first big Kickstarter anime.
Yeah.
Yeah, before Under the Dog happened, which we will not talk about.
Oh man, yeah. Oh, that's a whole other Weebcast that has to be done at some point. But yeah, it's it's interesting because I do think you're right that there's more mainstream appeal in this in a weird way, and like it is weird to say that because like this is an anime about like violence and gore and hardcore fucking constant like like the donkey scene,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
the auditorium scene, the like
Oh my god.
there's so much sexual imagery. Like the final boss is literally just like an angel with his tits out,
Yeah.
and with his tits and dick out constantly.
We have a show. We have a show where a guy literally tries to fuck a devil to death.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no. He literally tries to fuck her to death. That's something
As
that
they're
happened in the
falling
show.
from the sky, it's like before we hit
As
the
they
ground
are
in a brutal way, I just need to stick it in.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
man.
I fucking loved it because it just kept surprising me. Because like when you thought there was a boundary, then that boundary got like broken the next episode, and I fucking loved it.
Dude, my favorite scene was when fucking Akira wakes up from like that dream/nightmare of him, and it just wakes up and just a huge jizz stain on the roof. I'm like, dude, bro, I can relate.
and his demon pubes all over his bed the first night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god, I feel though like I don't know if this might be a stretch to say this, but I feel this is like the first ever like proper like Eroguro anime. I think. I don't know. Like, can we like put Eroguro as a genre for Devilman? Because like it is like very sexualized. It is very violent, and at least like Nagai like wasn't really afraid to like keep those two together. Like most authors, if they do add like a bit of sexuality and a bit of gore, then they're usually like to separate it because the two put together is a bit fucking weird. But like I feel Nagai was just kind of like, you know what, fuck it. So it's all fucked up. So even if I put it together, it'd still be fucked up.
Well,
and I don't know if it's like proper Eroguro, but like it could be. Maybe it might be the first ever Eroguro manga.
I think I don't know if it's the first. I feel like I've seen other stuff with this tone before, though I can't name it off the top of my head. But I mean I think it really comes down to what Yuasa and Nagai try to say with their stuff, right? Because on the one hand you can do stuff with nudity and sexuality as a way of titillating the viewer, but here it's supposed to be something that just like pokes at the primal id underneath underneath human psychology and makes you want to like conflates getting off on seeing people tear each other to pieces in a gory way with getting off on sex, and like saying that violence and sex are two flip sides of the same coin on like a primal level.
Right.
See, yeah, because like I wouldn't be surprised if he was like if Devilman was the first ever Eroguro, because like Nagai is kind of like the man of firsts when it comes to like genre defying shows. Like Mazinger Z was like the first ever like mecha anime, and like Harenchi Gakuen was also is considered the first ever ecchi manga. So like he was just kind of like boundary pushing in all of his ways. But I feel Devilman, like out of everything he ever did, like Devilman was easily the one where it was just like, he was just fucking off his rocks at that point. And was just like, I'm gonna take everything that I ever wrote and just fuck it up.
and the level to which he's like taken and evolved Devilman, it seems like it surpasses everything else he's worked on. I'm not 100% familiar with Nagai's body of work still, because there's a lot. But like Devilman is one of those things that he kept coming back to and kept doing new spins on. Because like there's Devilman Lady and Dark Side of Devilman and all of these different like alternate universe and sequel series. And I mean, it, like if you look at how influential it's been too, it's kind of crazy. Like when I was watching this, I was seeing bits of Shin Megami Tensei. obviously Evangelion.
Yeah.
Like not even
That final episode is just end of Evangelion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is just end of Evangelion completely.
I mean, right down to the color palette of the water in the in that post-apocalyptic
I was just
scene.
gonna say, like, that's 100% the same. But I feel as well, like, I feel like Yuasa might have taken a bit of influence from Evangelion in that respect.
I feel like because it was it inspired Evangelion, especially that ending, especially the ending. I feel like Yuasa himself took inspiration from Evangelion in the color palettes and just the framing and just the way the way everything fucking looks. So it kind of like went full circle, I feel like. Where it referenced itself again.
Yeah. There's like this opportunity when you remake something iconic like Devilman, right? That you get to fold in the things that Devilman has influenced as influences back on your work.
Yeah.
So it's like this sort of origami structure of art that, like, when you look at the whole of stuff that has come since Devilman that has been clearly inspired by it, being fed back into the creative process and being done by Masaki Yuasa, who, by all appearances, was hugely inspired by Devilman before he got the chance to work on a Devilman anime.
Right.
It's like seeing a great director get to remake one of the films that influenced them, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just such a...
I can't imagine how much of an honor it must have been for him too.
Oh yeah, I like you can feel his passion in this project itself. But like, how do you feel this adaptation compares to the manga, to the original manga itself?
I mean, I definitely say, like, I recommend both, in all honesty. Like, I feel it's kind of difficult to, like, compare it to each other just because, like, obviously Masaki Yuasa put quite a bit of himself into that adaptation. So I feel like it's not really like an adaptation. It's more like just like a remake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this was perfectly, like, it was cut halfway in between. It wasn't too Yuasa, it wasn't too Nagai. It was something that was perfectly cut in between the two creators.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what I think every really good adaptation is something that brings in something of the creator, of like the original creator, and something of the creator who's adapting it. I mean, Yuasa's always been good at doing that. Like Ping Pong and Tatami Galaxy are both faithful to their source material while being very distinctively his own thing. But like, I don't know. I feel like there's less value unless you're doing a perfect one-to-one adaptation like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I feel like there's less value in just trying to do what the original did, but a little bit worse. And there's more value in trying to make it your own thing.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that we don't have a lot of opportunities to see adaptations that, like, the creator's vision gets to impact what it is.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. You hear that, Adam Wingard? Jesus.
I don't know. Well, I mean, like, with the Death Note movie, I can at least respect, like, one thing I respect about that movie is that they did something different with it. I don't we obviously don't agree with everything, or even most of the things about the creative decisions about the movie, but I can at least respect that they tried. You could feel the director's presence and the director's vision in this body of work, and with Devilman, you can definitely feel it's a Yuasa work with Nagai influences, and I love that because, I mean, as much as I like something like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is a very, very faithful one-to-one adaptation. Sometimes it's not the best. Sometimes I want to see the director's own vision and own personality and own style in an adaptation.
Parasite's a good example of that. I was thinking about. I've been recently thinking about older manga that have been adapted recently, and like Parasite changes a lot of subtle things and is in no way. I mean, it is the original manga. Story-wise, it follows the same plot beats, but at the same time, it's like a very modern horror action anime.
Right.
Funny, probably
Which
another
is
title that was inspired by Devilman.
I was just about to say.
Yeah. Like, obviously inspired. Like, we got a bunch of transforming monsters pretending to be humans, and this transforming monster is a good one because reasons.
Yeah, hey, look, once the devil is inside the main character, he's no longer a bitch boy. Wow, what a coincidence.
Wow.
Yeah, oh man, that's another thing I'd like to discuss, because Parasite was really good. And I got flashes of it watching this. I think it's a good place to compare and contrast too, because Parasite brought in like a little bit of modern tech, but it played to the same story at the same time, whereas Devilman Crybaby is so social media oriented and so such a product for the digital age. Like, the big emotional climax of episode 9 basically revolves around a tweet chain.
Yeah.
And there's like so much emphasis placed on like tabloid journalism and the people who are following these athletes. When I was first watching it, I thought that the emphasis on like 100-meter dash as like a sport was a little weird, but I liked how they brought that in, and relay racing, that metaphor at the end where like
that's what killed me in the end. It was like it was tying in that metaphor to the emotional climaxes, and that's something that I love the way they did that, and I love the way that, as you said, they use social media and just like kind of took Nagai's story and just put it in this modern digital age. I also love the fact that the delinquents are now rappers. As we've already mentioned, that was a change I really liked, and
their dialogue was so good. The way that they talk to each other in rap, and like that the way that I'm blanking on his name, but the guy talks to Miko and like confesses his love for her in a rap is so good.
I just like the fact that like, I guess USA took like a different approach to like story exposition. Like, instead of just like every fucking anime that uses a cafe scene, he was just like, oh, I'm just going to get these rappers to like subtly, like just basically exposition dump on what's been happening in the story so far, but make it entertaining and interesting.
That was brilliant. The way they used the freestyle rap in, like, I think they did it in 2 episodes just to set the scene for exposition of what has happened. It wasn't like a narrator being like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then that happened. It was actually like I thought that was a brilliantly creative way to set the scene,
absolutely,
in a way that we hadn't seen.
It was
before.
like an exposition that like came from, like, it was a first-hand like experience as well, from the characters actually like inside the story, and that has actually been affected by the world getting fucked up, but not in like a really like over dramatic way, which I thought was really good.
Yeah.
So I want to say one last thing about the social media aspect before moving full on into this rap conversation, which is just that it's interesting because I feel like the social media stuff allows the plot to be accelerated in a very natural way. Like, Devilman, the original manga's plot plays out over months, but Ryo's plan to like expose the demons via live stream and make people stop trusting each other is so accelerated by people tweeting about stuff and being like, oh, fuck you, let's go kill Miki, she's protecting a demon, she is a demon. And just like the way that internet hate mobs both bring people together, because that brings the whole Devilman army together in one place, but also make things so much worse for the planet is like an interesting and relevant commentary that Yuasa brings to the table that wasn't in the original work, and I that is really apparent when you contrast the two of them. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Because like, oh, go
yeah, yeah. No, go ahead. Sorry, I want to.
No, because like one thing I noticed was like how fast it went from like 0 to everything's everything's in the shitter right now. It was literally like you blinked and like the entirety of humanity had just gone to shit. But I think it's a really good point about how social media can just accelerate that. I mean, you have the same kind of things going on a smaller scale with, people getting doxxed, and all this kind of shit with hate mobs and people coming together as well. You got both sides of the spectrum, which isn't possible in the old days where things like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube existed. I mean, something like on a scale of something like Logan Paul, for example. Like the hate he has could not have been accelerated as much without social media. I mean, his video came out. I mean, even in this age, his video was out for a full day before people grabbed onto it, and really accelerated the hate itself. And I loved that one scene in episode 9 where it was Miki's message to the world. I loved how that played in as well.
And I feel that like that whole social media aspect, like right at the end especially, is like such a beautiful irony that a bunch of people actually complained about that aspect of the show, saying that, oh, the plot pacing is off, like they just rush through everything, when like in reality, like that's exactly the point. And the fact that people don't realize that just goes to show how much of an impact social media and the speed of social media has kind of like numbed everybody's senses of like speed. And it's just, I don't know, I found it really interesting, just being like, oh wow, like US is trying to show you that, social media can really take things to a whole other level way too quickly. But the fact that you're complaining about a plot pacing of that in the show is just goes to show that you don't really realize that it's actually happening in real life.
Yeah. Oh man, let's not think about that right now. Let's talk about fun anime and not accidental missile launch announcements.
Yeah, exactly. My button is bigger than you.
Oh god. Yeah. We are living in an episode of Black Mirror today.
Yeah.
I mean the other week I was like setting up for a live stream and I actually accidentally clicked start streaming instead of test stream. Yeah. And I was like, this is the worst thing that can ever happen with a drop down menu and somebody clicking around. This is a disaster. Nothing worse can possibly happen to somebody accidentally clicking something without a "Are you sure?" prompt.
Yeah.
And then fucking this week, oh boy. But yeah, I mean that did make me feel a little better about myself, I guess. But yeah. Anyway, I wanted to move on back to the rapper discussion, just because I feel like Yuasa did a really good job of crafting a distinctive musical identity for Devilman. With this adaptation.
Like how many times have we, one, heard rapping in an anime, and two, heard freestyle rapping in an anime? Which the only other example I can think of was that one episode in Samurai Champloo. I can't think of any other examples in anime of just people freestyling like that.
Especially like, they may have, like, we just can't think of it at the top of their head, but that just goes to show that like maybe it wasn't as impactful as, say, Samurai Champloo or even Devilman.
Yeah, and I mean it's great for a few reasons. Like, it delivers good exposition. It makes those characters stand out. Like, every single member of that rap group, you've got like the two guys who are rapping at each other, the one guy who beatboxes, and like all of them have like a distinctive identity apart from apart from who they initially seem to be, that stands out in your mind. And then there's like the use of techno, the use of different genres.
I think we can all come together and just say that the entire soundtrack is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I was about to say, like, this was one of the most unique soundtracks I've heard in a long time. I love the tech. I mean, like, I was listening to the soundtrack, and some tracks are just straight up like clubbing music. It's just tracks you just straight up hear in a rave, and the way they use that to not only like. Tracks have to do a few things. They have to set the scene. They have to set the tone, and they were good as well. They were just tracks that you'd listen to on your fucking iPhone, and they hit every point a good OST needs to hit. And I love the soundtrack. It's if this came out in 2017, this would be my favorite soundtrack of the year.
Yeah, I think as well what's really important is just, like, the whole diversity of the soundtrack, because, like, there are so many, like, modern shows that just, all the songs in the soundtrack just sound the fucking same. And it's like, you could listen to one and it would, fit into, like, 40 different series. Like, you wouldn't know. But, like, you could listen to this soundtrack and instantly be like, oh yeah, like, I know exactly what kind of show this would belong in, because it wouldn't belong in anything else, really.
Mm-hmm. It jumps genres and it jumps like styles, and it still all feels Devilman. Like every song feels Devilman. And yeah, it is a refreshing change of pace from like garbage harem anime synth pop. Just man, can you imagine how depressing it must be to be like a composer working on anime that's not this, and it's just like, okay, so I've got to score this main character walking to school. Should I go do 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 do, or more like do 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 do,
or should I rip off every song off of Lucky Star? Like,
I mean, there are, like, this is not the only great anime soundtrack but like, there's something about it that's just so
well, you guys know
special.
Who did the soundtrack to this, right? Like, it was a guy called Ushio Kensuke, who is known as just, I'd say, one, like, a really fucking, like, underrated composer. He did the soundtrack to Ping Pong. Mm-hmm. And he also did the soundtrack to fucking A Silent Voice. So this guy clearly knows. This guy clearly knows, especially as well. Like, I feel with like his work in A Silent Voice, like that soundtrack as well is like extremely emotion driven.
I feel like the soundtrack on A Silent Voice is very underrated.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of Silent Voice is underrated, more so because everything about Your Name just completely overshadowed the overall conversation about the Silent Voice. But I love the soundtrack to A Silent Voice.
A Silent Voice is a shame that it got overshadowed by Your Name. But oh man, I'm just thinking back to some of those songs. This guy's got like insane talent. I hope that they bring him back for more.
This guy absolutely knows what the hell he's doing when it comes to like writing a good soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like a pretty early contender for best soundtrack of the year, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Oh yeah, I'd be very surprised if it wasn't one of the top soundtracks to come out in 2018. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if Devilman itself, as an anime, was one of the top anime to come out in 2018.
Yeah,
and I'm glad I can say this, that when it was literally like 5 days old into 2018, or something like that when it came out, and unironically say, hey, anime of the year contender.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be hard to top this.
But the thing is, there's already like a lot of competition just this season. I mean, like Violet Evergarden's not that far along, but like it's real good.
Yeah.
And I mean, Devilman is definitely like, I think, year defining for sure, but it's gonna be a good year in general.
Guys, we're forgetting about the greatest anime of 2018, Pop Team Epic.
Pop Team Epic is actually fucking amazing.
Epic.
Yeah,
it is really good. What this is we're not joking around. It's unironically a really good show. It's a way better shitpost than Neo Yokio is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, like it's a good year for original anime too. Like Darling in the Franxx looks like it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to turn this into a seasonal weebcast. I'm just saying, like
Nah.
Lots to look forward to this year.
Yeah, and it kicked off with like the best note possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, we've got to move into the viewer questions pretty soon because we're on a tightish schedule. So, what are your like final thoughts before we move into discussing questions?
I'd say for those who didn't enjoy Devilman, which I feel is a lot of the younger audience, from what I saw in like my comments and tweets about it. Just give it a bit of time. I didn't enjoy Devilman the manga either when I was young, but you'll understand. I don't want to be the dad, but you'll understand when you're older. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to talk about spoilers?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is
Okay. So there's the one thing I want to mention is that going into this, I had no idea Devilman was a tragedy. Right? I had no fucking idea, and I just want to quickly mention Miki's death because we didn't get to mention.
Oh yeah,
like that entire scene hit me so fucking hard. Because I expected people to die. I didn't expect everyone to fucking die. I see now how this inspired like Berserk, for example, where literally everyone you know and love is going to fucking die.
Yeah.
And Miki's death scene was something that hit me harder than any scene in anime had in a very, very long time. I mean, I still hear her screams in my sleep.
Yeah, I mean,
because
the brilliant thing about it is how they like keep your hope up like past the point where it's clear that she's fucked. Like she's being chased by an angry mob. Spider Demon gets taken down, and you're like, Akira's gonna save her, and then she's like running towards this other truck, and you're like, is that it? And then like the dead body falls out of it, and the guy starts chasing her, and she like turns around, she's surrounded, she is screwed, and as the knife goes into her back, you cut to Akira running to save her, and you're still like, maybe he'll make it in time. Maybe he'll at least get to like say some final words to her. And then it's just like head on a fucking stick. Typical woman, you know? Like, you think you're going to get to talk to her, and then her head's on a fucking stick. Come on.
I think what was brilliant about that scene was for me the way they made the baton analogy like a way to put some hope, because I thought with the whole like running analogy and the whole passing the baton that she would get to pass the baton, and that would be like the end of this character, like the character arc, and that's what gave me the hope. And then it so brilliantly just took that away. And for me that was why it couldn't have ended. It couldn't have ended any other way after Miki died, because she was the beacon of hope in that series. And after she died, she didn't only die, she died in a fucking awful, brutal manner. That for me, it couldn't have ended any other way apart from fuck the world, let's just nuke everything because nobody deserves to live anymore.
Yeah. I mean, she gives that big emotional speech about how, like, people can change, and, like, hate mobs like, nah, bitch, you wrong. And then they all get nuked. It's... God. There's just so much in that scene in the final episode that is just so good. And that another thing that hits really hard is that final tragedy of, like, Satan pushing up right to the point where he kills Akira, and then he finally gets it right when it's too late for him to do anything about it.
Yeah, it's like that like last bit of humanity in the person you expected it from the least after humanity is gone. It's just like, oh, so good. It was a brilliant ending. It was just a brilliant show in general.
And the last thing that I want to bring into this before we get into the viewer questions is just like the shot composition in this. I specifically was talking on Twitter about like the animation in this is amazing, and anybody who says it isn't like doesn't know what good animation is, which is a problem in the anime community. Like anytime somebody's like, "Yo, Konosuba's really ugly and I hate the animation," I'm like, "You don't know what you're talking about. Please stop."
Let me show you this freeze frame.
Yeah.
A1 makes the best anime.
Yeah, ironically, a lot of the quote worst freeze frames that we see from shows like Naruto are from some of the best animated fights in the whole show because they actually go off model. Anyway, I made a comment about that, and then somebody was like, "But the shot composition is really flat and boring."
What?
And I could not disagree more. Like, I think what was bugging him is that almost every shot is symmetrical. It's either like there's like either an edit on like a very hard left-right balance or an object of prominence directly in the center of the screen. And that's like I can see how somebody could be like, this is kind of boring to look at, but at the same time, that just like constant hammering home of like the divide between Ryo and Akira, the sort of divine symmetry of everything that's happening in every scene of the show is just it's so beautifully put together and purposeful. And I just want to call attention to that because people were like, this is bad cinematography. I'm like,
bad cinematography from an anime director who's probably known for his brilliant cinematography.
They were saying it was worse than Ping Pong. I was like, no, it's just like it's different.
It's just different.
Yeah,
It's just different. Yeah.
I like people get used to this shit. Like if Wes Anderson, going back to him, went and made a movie that wasn't like boxy looking, I think people would complain, even if the cinematography was fantastic, just because it's not the Wes Anderson style that they know, you know? Like, if he made something that looked like a Kubrick film or whatever. Anyway, we should move on to the questions. Although I will ask briefly while I'm pulling up the questions, how was your guys' week?
It's been all right.
It's been busy. I should say anytime anyone asks me what I've been doing, I don't know how interesting my week is when it's literally just sitting in front of a computer making videos. That's
You
just
just described our lives.
I know, right?
right
That's
there.
just our job. So yeah, I haven't really done much. More just been really busy working on videos.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I mean, I've been preparing for like everyone coming to Japan because a lot of people are coming to Japan this year, which is happy for me because I'm fucking lonely over here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be visiting Joey in literally like 2 weeks.
2 weeks,
2 weeks.
yeah.
Gonna party it up in Tokyo.
Hell yeah.
That sounds so fun. We're gonna make an effort to make it out there for sure.
Yeah, man.
We want to like go around and look at some of the sites because we only went to Tokyo the last time we were there, and we really want to see more of the country and just
I'm planning to take these guys more like outside of Tokyo this time around. Just to show that like there is some decent stuff outside of Tokyo.
But yeah, it is kind of rough doing the whole YouTube life because you do spend so many hours of your life just staring at a computer or sitting in front of like a TV watching anime, which doesn't sound like that hard a job until something like oh man, I'm just trying to remember something really awful from last season. But until something like Black Clover comes out.
Man.
and you have to for work. But yeah, it is. That's why we got to cherish these times that we get to come together and actually see another human being for 5 minutes before retreating into our holes.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's why I love, meeting you guys IRL, going to conventions and events, and anytime I can, because it's the only time I get to go out of the fucking house, for one.
Yeah.
And just have nice, fun human interactions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course, the flip side of that is that in order to do anything where you get to have an extended period of human interactions, you have to spend like weeks upon weeks getting videos ready so your channel doesn't die while you're gone.
Yep.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah.
The struggle is real.
Yeah, you can't just really take a break. If you take a break, then you have to work 2 times as hard before that break to make sure that to make sure that you can take that break. So in all lessons, you're always doing the same amount of work.
Yeah. Pretty much.
It's just divided up differently.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's all about learning to work smart. Anyway, let's get into these questions. Because we got a lot of them. So Kadeem G sent in a message asking, so a genuine criticism of the anime I've heard from my friends who enjoy the show is that there's no overall takeaway from it. Example, the takeaway from Neon Genesis Evangelion is that human interaction is difficult and you have to focus on taking care of yourself before others. So what do you think the takeaway from Devilman Crybaby is?
Geez. I mean, I would argue that there is a lot to take away from it. It all really depends on how you view like everything, like how you view the ending, how you view what the character, like what each character actually done. Because I feel that like they went so deep with not only like the main characters but even the side characters and their like characteristics that like you could really like relate to anyone that you want to and take away anything that you want to from whatever character it is. I personally just took away the simple idea of just, I guess, cherish everything you have, because you never know when a demon might come down and fuck up the entire world. But, you know, I mean, that's just me, I guess.
I mean, like, for me, it was because, like, I feel like a lot of the reason people didn't like it was the ending, and was because there wasn't a positive takeaway you can.
Right.
You didn't finish the series and be like, you know, I got something positive out of that, because it was a very bleak outlook in that. Given the opportunity, humanity will fuck itself over at at the flip of a switch. Which you know is obviously a very, very bleak takeaway. But remains to be seen how accurate this takeaway is right now, because we are living in some very scary times.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, we don't really want to get into, because we're happy and we're talking about anime, but it was a very bleak takeaway for me. With the entire outlook on the ending.
I mean, the idea of a rich blonde guy destroying the whole world with a few tweets is definitely a little bit.
It's too close to home.
Close to home right now. I could actually just imagine like Ryo being like, "Yo, Kim Jong Un, you're a fucking demon," and just like the whole world goes to shit. But I would say that the social media takeaway is definitely interesting, and just it's an exploration of human psychology and how we react to violence and sexuality and deal with our inner urges. It's just
go for it.
I think saying there's no takeaway really just means that there's no one clear takeaway. Like Evangelion is about lots of things, but at the same time, you can say that it's about like one specific thing that was important to get across. Yeah. But like Devilman it's about a very broad spectrum of ideas being explored simultaneously.
And I feel that's the whole reason why it inspired so many different series too. Like it didn't inspire the same kinds of series. Like overall, like I guess you can say they're like, oh, Berserk and Parasite and Evangelion, they have their similarities. But at the end of the day, they're all different series because they all took different things from Devilman and made it their own.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next question. From Kenny V, Dear Jeffelman, I have 3 quick questions. Now that the original manga is being picked up for an official English release, do you think that we will see any more of Go Nagai's insane works translated in the future, like how it took until the beginning of this decade for all of Tezuka's works to get proper translations?
That'd be nice.
I mean,
it would be nice.
It would be nice. I mean, the thing
I didn't know about the Tezuka thing.
It took a while to get Phoenix and stuff like that done.
Oh, Phoenix is so good.
I mean, the thing about the anime community now is that it's a shame, but with this whole like seasonal anime mindset kind of thing, it's no longer necessary for people to like, as an anime fan, to say, hey, you gotta read and watch all this old stuff. And it only really becomes relevant when we have something like Devilman that shines a light on these older works for companies to really think, hey, maybe it would be worth releasing and putting it back into the consensus of the anime community.
I mean, they did that with like Parasite and JoJo and stuff like that too.
Exactly.
Yeah. It is really valuable, I think, to bring that stuff back. I just want all manga to have official legal translations, please, because like it's hard to be like it's really legitimately hard to be anti-piracy and also be a manga fan, because there's so much stuff that we just miss. And I mean, it's easier for you, Joey, getting to live in Japan.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like,
Japanese.
I was just gonna say, it's really easy. Just do what I did.
Learn Japanese. Go
to your local book off.
Yeah, that's what I do. I just ride my bike for like 5 minutes and go to my local book off, and I have everything at my fingertips.
So follow-up question that I think should mostly go to Joey. What obscure Go Nagai series, if you've seen any of them, do you think should get a reboot next?
I would just say, I'd say Harenchi Gakuen, just because, like, again, like, that is considered the first ever ecchi manga. And there are a lot of series that were obviously influenced by it. And just seeing, like, right now, especially, you know, modern anime, really trying to shift towards a lot of ecchi stuff and, like, looking at ecchi stuff, like, way more, like, compared to, like, even, like, 5-10 years ago, I think would just be, like, an interesting series to, like, for ecchi fans to kind of just read back on and be like, oh, so this is how it all started. Kind of thing.
This is the grandfather of era manga sensei.
Exactly. You like your trash anime? Well, this is the beginning of trash anime.
Yeah. Go Nagai ruined anime, the story.
Yeah. He single-handedly like built anime and ruined it at the same time.
That would be a good compliment to Devilman for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that would also be interesting because like we're seeing a revival of arguably the first moe focused anime in Cardcaptor Sakura's new season right now. So that would be interesting. And the last question's a pretty simple one. Have you heard Animetal USA's headbanging rendition of Devilman no Uta?
Nope, but I definitely want to now.
Yeah, no.
I actually really love that part in the anime where like Yuasa kind of like made an homage to like the original Devilman anime, but like in like a really, I guess, brutal way. Like he didn't put it in like a way which was like, you know, oh, the old Devilman is back, everybody rejoice. It was kind of just like, hey, remember this? Well, I'm just gonna completely fuck it up for you.
Yeah, and the remix of Devilman no Uta that they use.
Can we talk about Devilman no Uta? And I was like, I'm actually very surprised they did not use that as the opening. Not saying the opening is bad, because I think the opening is fucking amazing, but holy shit, Devilman no Uta is a fucking that's my jam. That's my jam.
It's a headbanger. It's really hard. Somebody else asked a question about this. It is really hard to make a decision between those two.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next question from Jose C. Hello, Weebcast. Devilman Crybaby is the best anime I've seen in a while. And due to its legacy, I actually researched the series and its creator, which was fun. My first question is, do you think an adaptation of something as old as Devilman resonated so greatly in the modern anime community? Why do you think an adaptation of something as old as Devilman resonated so greatly in the modern anime community besides Masaki Yuasa's style? And the second question is, what... I will follow that up. Yeah, so why do you think it resonated so much?
Probably because it was a show that influenced a lot of other shows that we either all grew up with or all just unanimously enjoy. And we could just see, like, at least for me, like, when I first read Devilman, like, I could see where all the Berserk influences and like Parasite influences and all that came from. So it was just kind of like a weird like deja vu, I would say. It's like a reverse deja vu of being like, oh, I feel like I've seen this before. Oh yeah, of course, it was from the series that was inspired from this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to build on that, I mean, I think obviously the original work was so influential because it was a great piece of work. But what Yuasa did was he was able to, and we talked about this, he was able to modernize it to them for the modern audience by bringing people like the rappers, like so adding that social media aspect to it. He took an old classic story and modernized it perfectly, having the perfect balance of the original story for something that modern audiences would understand.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that hits the nail on the head. I think that there's other aspects of it that are very that contribute to it. Like the sexual themes and the unique animation style make it stand out from other anime. And I honestly think just the fact that it was on Netflix was a huge boost to it. Because Netflix has become like this platform where people, I think, are willing to take a chance on really weird out there shit, where like on mainstream television it wouldn't fly, and that's really cool. Moving on to the second question, what other older manga and anime do you think deserve a modern anime adaptation in the same mold as Devilman Crybaby?
I would personally like to see what somebody can do with Harenchi Gakuen. Just like, just because, like, again, like, ecchi is such a prominent genre, especially in the last few years, that, like, I don't know, I just want to see how, I guess, ecchi lovers of today would react to an ecchi series from, when was it, like, what, the mid-70s? Maybe even before that? Like, how would people react to or how would we be able to modernize an almost 50-year-old ecchi manga? Like, that would be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think that would be I mean, like, I think it'd be pretty interesting to see something like Devilman, which was influential, which was entirely influential in other pieces of works. Because what was interesting about Devilman was seeing the birth of so many series that I hold close to my heart, like Evangelion and Berserk. So I mean, even maybe some more of Go Nagai's work because of how, as we discussed, how influential he was. I mean, like, imagine seeing like Mazinger Z coming back and just being like the new Gurren Lagann, bringing back super robots into the modern anime consensus.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about influential stuff, I'd really like to see like a modern update of Fist of the North Star. That'd be really cool.
Oh yeah,
but
hell yeah.
But I'm gonna give my final answer to 20th Century Boys. Needs to be a fucking anime. This has
been the struggle.
Is that an old manga, or is that just a manga that needs to be adapted? Period.
It just needs to be adapted. I'm like
we saw how well Monster did. So like, just get that same team who did Monster. Just fucking stop giving us these shitty live action adaptations of 20th Century Boys. No one asked for it. Just fucking make an anime for it, please.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest manga of all time, and it just needs to be an anime so everybody can know how good it is.
Everybody, like, they just need to adapt everything Urasawa Naoki did. Like, even Billy Bat as well, which is his latest one, is so fucking good.
Yeah,
and more people need to know it.
He's maybe the best mangaka like ever.
Yeah, he's pretty fucking good.
At least the most consistently amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Did I dream, or is Pluto getting an anime? I'm not sure if I dreamed this or not.
Is it?
I feel like I saw something about it. I don't know if it was an anime adaptation or maybe it was just like a remake of the manga, something like that though. But I definitely did see some kind of news on Pluto. Dude, if Pluto gets an anime, holy shit.
Oh no, it is getting an anime. Yes, I remember. I was freaking the fuck out.
Thank God.
Pluto's getting an anime. Yeah. So that's one work I'm glad for.
All right, cool.
Oh God,
just
that's
adapt
gonna
the
be...
rest, and then we'll all be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now, it's literally just like one piece of key art on an MAL page with one member watching it. But
Yeah.
that's going to be good. That is going to be good.
That is gonna be
Then do 20th Century Boys, please. I beg
Yeah.
you.
Hopefully this will bring his works back into the limelight, and then we can be like, yeah, 20th Century Boys next, please. Anyone?
Yeah, just anything Urasao Naoki, please. Like, we've been saying it for years.
Literally anything at this point. All right.
Yeah.
Next question. What's up, weebs? Binge the show as per your request of the What's an OP. Immediately fell in love with it. It's clear that there's symbolism in almost every shot, but one thing that really stuck out to me was the use of color. The first few episodes, for the most part, use much lighter color palette, and as we move into the real dark shit, we get a lot of harsh shades and darkness. Did you notice this change, and do you see any meaning in it beyond artistic flair? And what other shows do you think use color effectively to aid storytelling?
I mean, he kind of just answered his own question.
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously, it's much lighter at the beginning because, it's before the club scene. Like, even in the club scene as well, like, I feel the fact that Yuasa used a light color palette was, like, kind of there just to show, I guess not so much the fact that it's still, like, a bright, situation, but rather he used, like, a lot of colors which are very, like, neon and, like, very, like, a very abstract set of colors and, like, a very vibrant color palette. I guess more to, like, push the fact that, it's, like, things have gotten crazy and things have gotten fucked up and things have gotten beyond this world. And so he used a bunch of, like, like, really, like, bluish green neon colors just to show that, like, that whole fucked up side of things, that it's almost otherworldly. And then, obviously after that scene, he used a bunch of darker color palettes, and the further and further you went, it would get darker and darker until that last scene with the Red Sea, where it's, obviously just, it's the end of the world and everything is just as fucked up as it was at the beginning. So
I like how the consensus now is that a Red Sea means apocalypse.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but I mean, I pretty much agree with everything Joey says. I'm just trying to think, because I know that there are other shows I've noticed, and I praise for its use of color. I just can't think of any on the top of my head. I'm gonna need to put up.
Well, I mean, everything Masaki Yuasa is just a director that loves to play around with color palettes. Like, even in Tatami Galaxy, like, there were so many odd color palette choices that he made, which just stick out. And, obviously, if, we could all probably, like, make a video each just, like, going into, like, every, like, scene of a Yuasa, directed series and just analyzing the color palettes and everything. But just, yeah, I don't know. He just likes playing around with color, that I feel that a lot of other directors are afraid to do, just because it would seem too artsy and would alienate too many people.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, no, I agree with basically everything you've said. It is rare to see something in an anime that's not intentional, is the thing.
Yeah.
And anyway, to move on to the next question, Devilman Crybaby's effect on anime from Spark129, do you think that this anime being made and seemingly doing quite well so far will make it acceptable in TV anime to be as grotesque and sexual? Of course, early morning shows won't be able to do this, but what about late night shows? Do you think maybe this will open up a bigger market for adult anime the way that Deadpool did for adult comic book films?
I don't think it will change TV anime, but we were talking about Netflix being a new platform. So what I think what Devilman has done, it has opened the door for more kind of adult and brutal and gory and sexual animations on the internet. Because I'm not sure what the policy for censorship and violence is for Japanese TV. But there is no such policy on the internet, and I feel like that's where it's really opened doors for all new opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, people can argue and say that, like, recent midnight TV shows have gotten a little bit more edgy and a little bit more quote unquote boundary pushing, but like on you know, on a general sense of things, like, especially compared to stuff that you find on Netflix or Hulu or, like, you know, I feel like we've, like, gone back to, like, the Newgrounds era of animation where it's just kind of like, there is just no limitations of how fucked up something can be on the internet now. And I feel I feel we're still a little bit too early in that respect. Like, I feel the fact that, like, even midnight shows even became a thing was because there was just a growing adult demographic in the anime community just in general. But I don't think it's, like, you know, obviously there are TV regulations and stuff like that, as Garn said, that I don't think will allow shows like Devilman to air. Maybe that might change with how prominent original net animations become as a result of Devilman or something else, but as of now, I don't think it's going to have a direct effect yet.
I my take on it is sort of I think it is just a symptom more than like a cause for further adaptations of adult anime, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I think that the move towards original net animation is just going to naturally allow for crazier stuff, like you guys were saying. I mean, if you look at Animator Expo, there's a lot of really trippy, sexual and violent content there. Yeah. And like Me was a huge hit. And that's about on the same level as Devilman, all things considered. Mm. So yeah, I think that we're just going to keep seeing more things like this, not necessarily as a result of Devilman's success, but just because this new medium is allowing creators to push boundaries. All right, we got time for a couple more questions.
Sure.
And before we talk a little bit more about Devilman, I've got one question for Gigguk. Somebody wanted me to rake you over the coals, so here goes. Jordan B asks, he says, I'm a big fan of all of you guys. Thank you for turning out quality content, even with the current state of YouTube. My question is for Gigguk. I've seen all of his videos, and I want to know, this is the hardest pressing question you've ever gotten, Garnt, so be prepared.
Okay.
Did he actually legitimately enjoy Eromanga Sensei?
You know what? I will second that question. I want to know as well. Yeah, did you enjoy it?
You know what? Do you want my honest opinion?
Honest to God answer. Honest to God answer. Did you unironically enjoy it?
Honest to God, I don't even know anymore. It's become such a meta thing, such a meta joke, and such ingrained in just my personality. I don't even know if I enjoyed it anymore. I mean, obviously I enjoyed it, but I don't even know if I enjoyed it unironically or if I enjoyed it ironically. It's become so far up my agenda, so ingrained in my personality. I don't even know anymore.
I feel that like your sarcastic and cynical British side has just like overtaken like your logical reasoning to like an anime anymore.
I know. I've satirized it so much that I don't even know. That is my honest to God answer.
That's hard hitting. This is the kind of hard hitting journalism you guys will only hear on the Weebcast. So make sure you send your questions in the weeklyweebcast@gmail.com. All right, we're moving on to a couple more questions. This is more of a lore one that I found to be pretty interesting. Ryo's motivation from Justin S. Is there a reason why Ryo needs to make Akira a Devilman in the first place? Why would he make something that would be an obstacle to his plans? His ultimate goal is obvious, to destroy humanity because they're weak, but why did he have to go through with this overly complicated plan to achieve it? Wouldn't it be easier to wait until enough demons take over humans and then just wage war against humanity? Why was the other part of his plans necessary? This and just the messy plot in general is why I can't bring myself to agree with Joey, who's already calling it anime of the year. Animation I like, music was great, but the story just fell flat on its face. IMO. So this is, I think it's interesting to hear from people who don't like the story, and see where they're picking it apart. Mm-hmm. And like to me, it just made sense that Ryo made Akira into a Devilman not to further his plans, but because like he had, since he was a child, been in love with Akira, and like thought of him at least as his best friend, but also like had a lot of platonic and non-platonic love for him, and just that carried over to Satan, and subconsciously he wanted to make Akira survive. And then
I feel it was like a mix up between like Dior as a human and like Satan as a devil that was like residing. Like it was kind of like it was like an inner struggle, I guess, with Dior. Like even he didn't know why he had to. He just felt like it was right.
Yeah,
and then at the end you realize that like because he was fucking Satan. That's why. So like it's not like apparent the motivation, but like if you're paying attention to especially like how Dior changes from just a regular or an apparent regular human being until the very end where he's the fucking embodiment of Satan, like you can kind of start to like pick up on hints as to why he might have. But I feel the reason why I enjoyed at least that part of the story was because it wasn't fucking spoon-fed to you like so many shows tend to do.
Oh no.
And you know, it kind of gave space for you as a viewer to, I guess, explore the plot on your own agenda.
And interpret his motivations.
Right. Exactly. And it's like, and again, like the entire series is so open-ended with what you can take away from it and what it all actually means that it's more than just, you know, a visionary experience. Like it's like you get to like fully experience inside your own mind, like what the hell is happening, and maybe it's happening because of this, and it's a whole like exploratory process as well, which I feel a lot of anime, especially recently, just doesn't want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like to build on that, it's Ryo's character in the entire series is up for interpretation. So if you want to pick apart everything he did. And see if it made sense to the overall grand plan. I don't think everything he did was to further this plan of causing the fucking apocalypse. You know, I feel like there's something deeper with his relationship with Ryo. With Ryo's relationship to the main character. That is up for interpretation. I mean, a lot of it is just, hey, maybe he's just so fucking gay he caused the apocalypse. Which,
I mean, I like what I took away from it is like Ryo becomes or Satan becomes a human in the first place so that he can understand the human heart.
Yeah.
And like really understand those weaknesses. But because he does that, he also takes that weakness into himself. And I mean, we see the weakness come to fruition right at the end, where we see that he does have partially a human heart to be able to feel and to be able to cry and everything. Yeah, it's interesting because like there's that parallel. There's always all these parallels between Akira and Ryo. Like Akira is a human who becomes a demon, and Ryo is a demon who becomes a human. And like that transition, because he was also originally an angel, right? So that transition to like understanding humanity right when it's too late. And I mean, the overlying tragedy of like God making him repeat that mistake over and over again for eternity, just sending more souls down to hell, which is something that's explored in Devilman Lady and is, oh man, there's so much depth in this story. And I mean, if you're just taking it on like a plot reading, person does this because of this information and this motivation thing, maybe it doesn't make the most sense, but people don't always make sense like that, and that's an important thing for writers.
Yeah, I feel it's not supposed to make sense like that either. Like I feel like if it just was like a clear cut, you know, A happens, then B happens, then C happens, then I feel it would take away a lot of the charm that made the story of Devilman like so intriguing to a lot to and creators. So yeah, it's just it's modern art, bro. It's just interpretation.
And I like people are gonna
you just don't get it.
You just don't get it.
You're watching it wrong, obviously.
Now,
Open up your
the
mind,
thing you
bro.
gotta understand is that you need to have a very high IQ to understand Devilman.
Yeah. I think we should have just said that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Short answer, have a high IQ, bro.
Hey, Akira, you gotta go kill the demons. Oh, Cheerio. I don't wanna.
Oh, God.
Oh man. But yeah. So moving on to the last couple questions. Hey, love you guys. Question is, do you think the show would have benefited from? So this is from Brew 332. Do you think the show would have benefited from having a longer runtime, more episodes or longer episodes to help its crazy fast pacing? Do you think the pacing adds to the show? Thanks.
I mean, I think we've already talked about like how the social media aspect of it, like, just completely makes the plot pacing make sense.
Yeah.
I guess
I feel like maybe it could have been better with just one extra episode to explore like the process of the world going to shit. I don't think it was necessary, but I think it might have been able to help in the transition from everything being fine and dandy to everything being completely to shit.
I mean,
to shit.
Yeah, let's just say we wouldn't have complained if there was an extra episode.
I wouldn't have complained if there was like 50. It was really good.
Yeah.
But I do think the flip side of putting an episode in there is that maybe that removes some of the immediacy of like, you've just seen Miki die, you're really mad, you want to direct that anger somewhere, and you want to see Satan die right the fuck now. And that, that immediacy, and then the betrayal of your expectations that comes with the ending, which is also like, I think it was paced perfectly for the story they were trying to tell, personally.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I find it funny that a lot of people were talking about the pacing of the ending, where in the original manga, it ends even more abruptly.
Oh yeah.
Like they actually dragged it out compared to the manga, because the manga just ends so abruptly, like after Miki's death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like maybe like 15 pages after Miki's death, and then it just fucking ends.
Yeah.
And they don't really explore Satan's character or a lot of other stuff as much as they could. That's another one of the benefits of like doing an adaptation this far along, is that you get to take supplementary material, like all of the different Devilman stories Nagai wrote after Devilman, and incorporate aspects of that into your story. Like the fact that like Devilman is a TV show within the TV show is interesting, because that is an aspect of Devilman Lady where they dive into this time loop that Satan and the rest of the world are trapped in. Yeah, I don't know. It's just went off on a tangent there. Sorry. Okay, last question of the night, just because there've been a lot already, and we're coming up on when people got to go. Wade N writes, so I watched Crybaby when it came out, and my reaction to the ending was how you reacted to Kato's episode 0. So I guess that would be like surprise and like, this took a total shift, but I'm on board. And not long after, I read the manga and thought Crybaby exceeded the original manga's version of the story. As a longtime fan of anime and cross-examining anime, manga, and games, what shows do you think surpassed their source material?
Oh, man.
Oh, shit.
I'm just trying to think.
Yeah.
Because I feel that's a very subjective question, really.
Mm-hmm.
Because, man, it's just been, like, such a long debate of, like, is the manga better or is the anime better? Which one is it?
Well, I think that Berserk got a better adaptation.
Look, you can joke about era manga, but we can't joke about that, alright?
I couldn't even finish that sentence.
when I see you in San Francisco next month, I'm going to mess you up, Gigguk.
Yeah, just smack him for me, please.
Yeah. But seriously,
Ah, man, I don't know. There's been a few, I would say. I mean, there are obviously a lot that I can think of that, obviously it's just like a bunch of manga that I feel like can't really be adapted into an anime. Like, obviously, like, as Garn said, like, Berserk is just one of those shows I feel that, like, it's very difficult to adapt. And, like, more recently, like, the King's Game, was just
King's Game's hilarious. That's the best comedy of last year.
Yeah,
hands
exactly.
down.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, I guess you can argue that it was a good comedic adaptation, but, like, I don't know. It's just there are. Man, I'm trying to think. I'm sure there is one that I can easily say, like, yeah, the adaptation's way better.
Well,
I mean,
I would say
any Yuasa.
Go for it, Jeff.
Sorry, I was just gonna say any Yuasa adaptation is a good example. If not surpassing Ping Pong or surpassing Tatami Galaxy, it's definitely different enough that it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go for your answer, and then I'll give you mine.
Okay, well, I think Yuasa is a good answer because we talked about directors bringing their own vision and something new to the table with an adaptation. I mean, I could say something like, for example, Hunter x Hunter being a better adaptation, but that's not really hard considering the art of some of the original arcs,
Yeah.
But so for me, I'm trying to think of directors who really bring something new to the table with their adaptations.
I actually thought of one. I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion, but I personally thought the anime adaptation of The Flower of Evil.
Oh yeah, the with the rotoscoping and everything.
Yeah, the rotoscoping. Yeah, I thought that. Man, so many people are like, the rotoscoping was ugly and the manga is way better. And I love the manga, don't get me wrong. But something about the rotoscoping just makes it so just that much more disturbing that I love it. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Like, I thought that was a fantastic idea.
I feel like
it drops you right in the uncanny valley.
Yeah, that's what it does. That's what it does so brilliantly. And I feel like if there were just some things that just kind of looked really funny. Which is what it had to go against. But I think they had exactly the right idea. The execution just needed to be polished a little bit more. But I can definitely see where Joey's coming from.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I can't be the only one that fucking, like, was scared for my life every time the ending song came on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh God. I'm thinking back to that.
Yeah, I know. It's just so. I feel another one as well that I personally thought surpassed the original adaptation. Oh, the original source material rather was Shinsekai Yori.
Yeah, that's a fair argument.
Yeah, the novel's great, but man, something about that art style is just worked so well.
Something that just occurred to me, because I was completely spacing on light novels, but I would argue that Konosuba is a better show than it is a book, just by virtue of, like, the acting, the animation, the comedic timing is just perfect.
Yeah.
Garnt, what's your? Is he dead?
I don't know.
He may have died.
Oh.
All right. Until he's alive again. Okay, yeah, he's cutting out a little bit. I was just gonna say my pick would probably be Beck, Mongolian Chop Squad.
Oh yeah.
Because that's a brilliant, like it's not necessarily better because you do miss out on parts of the story, but the fact that you can listen to the music in it is so impactful to that story in particular, and I just think that really enhances it.
Yeah. I feel a lot of shows that incorporate a lot of, like, music into it, like, I mean, it's a completely different realm to Beck, but, like, I think everyone can argue that K-On! Was a much better adaptation Just not only because of the music, but just because fucking it's Kyoto Animation.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, like another one is like, if we're going on the run with Kyoto Animation, like Lucky Star is easily a much better anime than it was a manga, because, like, subjectively, the manga's fucking boring.
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially with K-On! They changed and added so much that it's like a different thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I do want to give Garnt a question to answer, or a chance to answer this question for the viewers. Oh, you're alive! You're alive!
There,
Hey.
hey.
I was about to be like, we'll be super quiet, and Garnt just say something into your microphone. But Garnt, what? Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was the question?
What would you say is an anime adaptation that surpassed the manga?
Well, for me, like I said, my obvious pick would be Hunter x Hunter. Just because it's well, there's two manga where I thought the art I couldn't get through them for the art. One of them was Hunter x Hunter, and the other was Attack on Titan. Like, I cannot stand Attack on Titan's art. I think, like, I know some people like it. I just think it looks really ugly. But I loved Attack on Titan's. I love how that polished everything. And who directed it again? I forgot who directed the first season. Tetsuo Araki. I love Tetsuo Araki. I love Araki's action direction. And I thought that's I mean if Attack on Titan was just a manga, I would never be into it, but because of the anime adaptation, which is why I'm waiting for season 3 before I read ahead in the manga, because I much prefer the anime adaptation to the manga.
I definitely, art style is another interesting one. Like Mob Psycho 100 is so much more palatable with Bones animation.
Oh yeah. I totally agree with that.
Although I did binge read the comic after I finished watching the anime, and it was worth it. This dude's a really good writer. Anyway, I think that's a good note to end this on. Devilman Crybaby is just an excellent anime all around. And thank you for sending in your questions about it to the weeklyweebcast@gmail.com. And thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, no worries.
No worries. Thanks for having us on. It's been way too long since we've been able to just to have a chat and a talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, since we've actually had a conversation. Yeah. I gotta just pull myself away from my work more. You know how it is.
Yeah. Same with all of us.
Yep.
But could you tell me one more time first, Garnt, then Joey, what your channels are and what kind of stuff you would like people to check out from you?
Well, I have. Who knew that? I have an anime channel. Yeah. Check out Gigguk. YouTube.com/Gigguk, I guess. Twitter.com/GiggukAZ. You know, I have a Twitter. I have a Patreon. Yeah, check out patreon.com/Gigguk. Yes, thank you very much. And that's pretty much it.
All right. And Joey, where can people find you?
Well, you can go youtube.com/theanimeman. I have a Twitter. I too have a Patreon that you can check out. Patreon.com/theanimeman. I also have my own weekly podcast show that I do with Aki, which is on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/theanimeshow. And we did an episode on the Devilman too, so you can go check that out. It's free to listen to.
If you want to listen to more opinions, that's a good. That you should go listen to that. If you're on SoundCloud right now, which there's a good chance you are, go check that out.
And you know, might get Jeff on another episode. You might get Garn on another episode. Yeah. So you never know.
That would be good
awesome.
to do.
Yeah.
I need to do more podcasts, but I need to do this podcast on a weekly basis. More importantly, as you fine folks remind me every time I bring up weeklyweebcast@gmail.com. Weekly in scare quotes. All right. Thank you very much for coming on, guys. This was an excellent discussion, and I had a good time catching up with you.
Right.
I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag.
I'm Gigguk from Gigguk. I don't have a sign off.
And
I'll see you guys next time.
I think that we should just end the only appropriate way. Sayonara, minasan.
Oh god.
Never do that in front of me again.
No, I've got to sign off. Stay frosty. Wait.
Stay frosty.
So long, Chibits.
All right.